Good morning, everyone. My name is Maya Luria, and I am with TMC for Seniors. And we are continuing on with our mental and emotional health this month. And today I have Liz Barta here from Catalina In-Home Services. She is going to be speaking about solutions for caregiver stress. And I know that this has been a year of stress for everyone. So I know that she'll bring to you several tips of the trade that she feels would be important for you to keep in your toolbox. So welcome, Liz.
Hello there. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, and congratulations to everyone for showing up and looking for some steps to be more relaxed and to take care of yourself. I'm with Catalina In-Home Services, and I do a lot of training and teaching for them. So here we go. There we go. How do you spell relief? Some of you may be old enough to remember this commercial, Alka Seltzer, right? Pop, pop, frizz, fizz. And I got the idea for doing stress management with this a long time ago. And I think it's important for us as caregivers because I'm a nurse and I'm also almost 71 years old. And I've had a lot of experience with caregiving and knowing what it takes and how much of a toll it can take. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, and now they're just going to tell us what relax, right, Maya? So let's see us relax here on this slide. Just let it go. Just, just don't worry about it. That's so easy to say, isn't it, for people? But to do it sometimes is not quite so easy. Letting it be sometimes is a better way to do it. Kind of put cushions of stress management techniques around what's bothering us. So that's what we're going to talk to do about today. What stress is, how it affects us, and some things to do about it, but especially geared towards caregivers. So if we look at the next slide, this is something that kind of looks like a weird fountain, but it's to illustrate and to help you take a note. If you've got a pencil and paper there, write down, make a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 is when you're very, very relaxed. You're just about going to sleep. Maybe you're laying in a hammock or lying in a hammock. And in 10 is when you're pulling your hair out and screaming. 5 is when we start really getting stressed and the hormones and the chemicals that are released during this time just start to come out. And a 5 is different for all of us. Many of us are physical reactors and some of us are emotional reactors. So a physical reaction at around a 4 or 5 might be your hands are sweating, maybe they're a little shaky, you've got butterflies in your tummy, maybe a little tension or feeling like tightness here. When you get up to near a 10 with that, the physical reaction might be actually having diarrhea. Your hands and the rest of your body is pouring sweat. You may feel really nauseous. So those are just some of the ways you may be feeling it physically. Emotionally reacting people will, at a milder stage, like around the 4 or 5, have a feeling of a little bit of anxiety, maybe being irritable or cranky, we call it, and maybe mildly depressed. When it gets into chronic or severe stress, the emotional reactors sort of have a lot of anger going on, maybe more severe depression, really can't focus on things. Or you may be a mixture of the two. What I'm inviting you to do is to remember at the end of this talk to go down and write actually what a 5 is for you and maybe what a 10 is and what your physical and your emotional reactions are to stress. So if we go to the next slide, what you're going to see here are some techniques for dealing with stress. And all of these things you may have heard of before, and maybe you actually did them before. But what I'm asking you to do is to try them again if they worked for you in the past. This is a good reminder. I'm really only going to have time to talk about the breathing one, and that's the one that is the easiest to remember because we always have our lungs and our nose with us, right? One of the simplest breathing techniques that Dr. Andrew Weil, really emphasizes is the 4-7-8 breath, where you breathe in through your nose for the count of 4, whatever that rate works for you. Then you hold it for the count of 7, and then you breathe out through pursed lips for the count of 8. 4, 7, 8. So maybe that's just something you can jot down now. The rest of these techniques are things that will take a little more to get into, but there's something that you can look up online even. So as we go on to the next one, there's another R under this relax as well, which is resiliency. And I think this is really important for us to be aware of how resilient we really are. If we've made it to senior years, we've been surviving. But now with the challenges of the pandemic, of course, and if you're also taking care of a loved one, it's really good to check in and see how can I be more resilient, or at least acknowledge the resilience that I have. So resilient people know that stuff happens. Notice I didn't say the other word. And suffering is part of life. That doesn't mean that you're suffering all the time, but it just means that difficult times come up. And we've all had those if we've lived to the age of 60s or 70s or older, and we've all survived it. We are resilient. So it's a philosophy of not why me, but why not me? That humility of knowing that it can happen and that we can deal with it. And also, resilient people choose carefully where they focus their attention. In the good old caveman days, we really had to focus on negative things. That's how we were hardwired, so that we could survive. We could be on the alert all the time. Ooh, is that a sound in the bush? Ooh, is the fire starting to get too big? Those kinds of things. And nowadays, with social media and the speed of everything going on around us, we're bombarded with what we could call negative things. So it's important to focus on the stuff that is positive for us or that is helpful to us. And that gets onto the last part of resiliency, which is asking yourself, is what I'm doing helping or harming myself? Or is what's going on in my environment helping or harming me? That's a really important question to ask yourself every day, maybe several times a day. And we'll go more into that later on. So that's some things about resiliency. And we can go on to E, which is, Maya, let us know what the E is. Exercise. Oi, did all of you get stressed just as I said that word? Sometimes exercise is just a stressor in itself. That's why I'm talking about also physical activity, because exercise, unless you're a workout fiend, can feel like just another burden in your life. So let's go on to some ideas about why I'm even bringing up exercise. Yeah, there's benefits. We all know that it lowers cholesterol, it lowers blood pressure. It can help you lose weight. But did you also know that it can also help erase some of those chemicals, those harmful stress chemicals I talked about when we were on the R? Yep. You can do like a 10 or 15-minute walk and have the benefits last for 2 hours, meaning that those stress chemicals get a sort of like erased. They did a study with men and showed that they did, I think it was 17,000 men. They had them burn the equivalent of about 15-minute walk a day for a week for quite a few months. And what happened was their heart attack rates went down by 20%. Then they took another group of 12,000 guys and had them, notice they're only using guys. These were the old days when they didn't use women in studies. And they had them burn twice that amount. So they did more like a 30-minute walk every day per week. And their heart attack rates went down 40%. Then they got a group of guys who were really nuts about exercising, and they quadrupled it so that they were exercising the equivalent of about 2 hours a day. And their heart attack rates didn't change from the ones that were only getting the 30-minute walks a day. So that means we can just do a little bit and still have a lot of benefits. So let's go on to the next slide. Here's some more benefits. I like to look at the idea of healthy pleasures. No pain, no gain is insane in my book. That's my book. So we want to be fit for life, meaning that we can get through the tough days of caregiving. Some are tougher than others, I know, and still have energy at the end of the day and still be able to, maybe do something that we enjoy, like knitting or going outside and having a little walk, whatever. We'll talk more about how to fit some of these things in without them being stressors in a minute. To the next slide. There we go. Laughter. See, I was laughing already. Thanks for giving me a chance to laugh, Maya. P and I, that's the slang term, I guess you'd say, for psychoneuroimmunology. What a word. This was a new branch of science that was developed back in the 90s. All of us nurses knew it already that there's a mind body connection. And this really connected the whole idea of it also affecting our immune systems, which of course is very important right now with the whole COVID situation. But we really found that laughter has a lot more benefits than just that whole mind body connection in the immune system. So let's see what's next on our laughter scale. So we're looking at some of the benefits here as well. So let's get serious about humor. If you have a belly laugh, it stimulates your internal organs. It increases your heart rate and, of course, increases your breathing and your oxygen use. And you all must have had a time when you laughed so hard that your stomach hurt. So you knew you were working out your muscles. What a great way to get a six pack, right? And also, oh, my jaws hurt from laughing so much. Right, right. They're getting a workout. But also, muscles in your body start relaxing, even the ones that you aren't using when you're laughing. So that's a great workout you get from using laughter. Um, there's another one that there's other benefits that happen if you look at the next slide, which is talking about getting new perspective. Oh, sorry, I went too fast. 20 seconds of laughter. Yes, I forgot to tell you this. If you laugh for 20 seconds, your heart rate stays doubled for 3 to 5 minutes afterwards. An aerobic workout. So it's also equal to 3 minutes of strenuous rowing. And I took a kayak yesterday on a lake in the wind, and I can tell you that after 3 minutes, I would rather have been laughing. So the next one is about our new perspective. And that's what happens when we laugh, when we're able to take a joke, we're able to get that creative thing. We get a whole new idea about how to deal with something. We're able to pan back from the scene and say, okay, how can I deal with this? I was telling Maya that I locked my keys in the car just as I arrived here the other day. And I realized, well, I was in no hurry. And I was actually hanging out at the post office here in Patagonia. And I met a lot of people in the hour and a half it took AAA to come. So laughing at myself helped me to get a whole new perspective on what was happening. And also, if you've heard of Norman Cousins, he's kind of an old historical figure nowadays, but he was the first person who realized that by laughter you could decrease pain. He rented a bunch of like Marx movies and Three Stooges, and it helped actually make him way more comfortable with the chronic disease that he had. So there's a little hint if you can get books or movies or a friend over who always makes you laugh. It's a good way to help deal with pain. I'm thinking about my daughter who lives in England, and and the pubs again. She has a flat above a pub, and just before that, they had workmen coming for about a week making horrendous noise. And she got so annoyed one day, she ran it around in her flat and she told me she started pretending she was the two guys trying to be as annoying as they could. Like, hey, mate, what do you think we could do? Do you think we could make this even more annoying for the people that live here? Oh, yeah, I think we can. I think we certainly can. How about if we start banging on a pipe for 3 hours? Well, no, they'll get used to that. How about if we actually like just drop kegs of beer every so often when they least expect it? She went on and on. She was much funnier than I'm being, but it's a good way of dealing with some situations. So let's move on now. And about pain. I can't believe I'm totally free of pain. Oh, just one thing. What's that? Don't sit down anymore. All right. So it's a silly joke, but acupuncture can be a way of dealing with pain in a lot of things, but there you go. All right. Now we're moving on to imagination. This is the next one. And you may all say, as soon as I say this word, oh, I don't have an imagination. I haven't got a creative bone in my body. Well, it's much easier and simpler than that, and you're already doing it. Think about what you had for breakfast today. Or did you have your cup of coffee or your cup of tea? If you're not thinking you had anything yet this morning, then how about yesterday? What did you wear? Do I remember what I wore yesterday? It's partly memory, but that is part of imagination, using your brain to bring up a memory and an image or a picture. And that can help a lot with stress management. And that's how we're going to talk about it. But let's have a little fun. The next slide is something that you may have all seen before. And here we go. This is a way of using our brain in a creative way. There's two figures here, and there are two faces. One's an old woman and one's a very young woman. The young woman's looking away from us. This line you see here is her chin. You can just about see a little button nose. You see her ear with a little pearl earring under it. It's a black dot. The old woman is a little more profile. And what was the young woman's neck is now her chin with a slit where the choker on the young woman was. And it's her eye that was the other woman's ear with a mole underneath. Her big schnoz is the other woman's chin. If you have trouble seeing this, maybe on the questions and answers, you can ask me more about showing it for you. But it's a way of just seeing that our brains can shift and move and be used in different ways. So let's go to the next slide and talk about how we can use visualization for stress management. Because part of our brain can actually control the physical and emotional states we're in, and we're already doing it. If you were able to remember your breakfast or what you were wearing yesterday, that's great. And now think about something like, oh, a great vacation you were on. Maybe your favorite vacation. Was it a beach? Was it the woods? Was it just being inside a hotel room and not having to do anything and lounging in bed with your cup of coffee and reading a book? Oh, doesn't that sound lovely? That's something that you can bring back. You can bring it back to your memory and take a couple deep breaths or do the 4-7-8 breath I talked about earlier and just allow yourself to relax. It can only be 10 seconds or it can be 30 seconds or you could actually take longer if you feel like it or are able to do that. So the next slide is going to show us another way to use our brains in an imaginative kind of form, and that's affirmations. Things like saying, I am at peace, I am calm and in control. Now, you may not believe these things consciously, but subconsciously, your brain doesn't know you're lying, and it will start believing them. It's important to have them in words that work for you. And so make sure that they're positive and that they're in the present tense and that they're very strong words and that it's a simple phrase so that you can remember it. Saying, I'm not going to get fat and eat too much again. Not exactly an affirmation, but maybe saying my body is beautiful and healthy. You may chuckle at saying that the first time, but after a while, your brain will incorporate it. So use these affirmations for ways to cope as well, not just for stress management, saying, I can deal with this. I've dealt with things in the past. I can deal now. It's important to keep reinforcing things with your subconscious brain that will help you feel more relaxed and more in control, because actually stress management is about feeling in control. All right, so if we go on a little further into the imagination, we're going to talk about inspiration. And brain linking is something I was kind of getting into when we were talking about visualization, but you can do it more solidly, more concretely. So what I'm holding in my hand or pretending is a little pebble. Let's say your grandchild and you were walking in the park the other day. Grandma, Grandpa, look at this cute stone, or look at this gorgeous stone, or is this gold, whatever. And now you have it in your pocket. And every time you take it out and you hold it, you're doing brain linking because you're going back to that moment with that grandchild and really, really savoring it. You can do it with objects that you find around, or you can do it consciously by having a photograph of loved ones right there in front of you that your heart just warms when you see them, even if you can't get together with them yet because of COVID. Or a photograph or postcard from one of your favorite spots or a place you want to go. That's all brain linking. And you can use that to help yourself relax, feel inspired. And breathing, I'm going to mention again, it's so important. And we inspire and we expire so that we can slow down and let spirit catch up. And spirit, of course, is about inspiration. When we move on with imaginations, I also want to talk about the idea that we can energize ourselves with those kinds of thoughts as well. We all know that stress drains our energy, but do we know specifically what's stressing us to take our energy away? And then what gives us energy? So it's really important to know the gains and the drains. And they don't have to be big things. They can be little things, like a squeaky chair that's been bothering you for years. I used to have a visor in my old car that kept flopping down, and I have to put it up, flop it down, put it up. And when I got my new car and that visor wasn't falling down, I realized how much it drained me. They talk about the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, it's true. Just lots of little things can be the things that wear you down. Of course, if you're doing a lot of caregiving and you're doing it with someone who may be actually dying, or it's very, very long term, those are very big things that keep getting bigger. And so that's one part you could put in your drains. But you can still compensate for a lot of that with a lot of little gains. So let's look at the next slide. Here's another thing I want you to write down to do afterwards. Make a sheet of paper, get a sheet of paper, and put a long line down it vertically. One side put plus, one side put minus, or whatever fills your tank or takes out your energy. And then actually list some of the things throughout the day that you're aware of. Maybe it's a noise that's constantly bothering you, your refrigerator hum, or possibly there's a construction worker going on next door to you. Um, it could be things like the temperature of your house is just not always the way you want it to be. Lots of little things like that. Filling your tank. What fills your tank? Is it music, certain kinds of music? Just turning it on gives you energy right away. Talking to a certain friend, looking at those photos again, using some of the brain linking. All of those things can be listed on your tank's empty or full meter there. I would like to go into this a lot more, but I'll give you time to do this at the end and to keep doing it so that you can have an idea. One way I also recommend for you to start filling up your tank is to keep a joy journal. This is something you can also do for the laughter part. And keep writing down things that maybe are only very tiny, that maybe only take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. You can have sections of your notebook for different timings, or something that might take even a half day or a full day. The things that will fill your tank, so that when you're feeling low, you can go and look at that. Because sometimes when we're really stressed or really tired, it's hard to think of the things that we want to do. It's like, I'm too tired or too stressed to even think about it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. And here we are getting towards the end, right? Oh my God, fake it till you make it. If nothing else, that should make you laugh a little bit. And smiling is one way of faking it, of course. We can't stay down too long if we keep smiling. Of course, we also might encourage somebody else to feel better as well once they smile that way. But let's say that you're really, really stressed and you're really worn down. My telling you to keep saying things positive to yourself, like, oh, this is okay, I can handle it, it's all right, I'm the one that can make this work, that becomes toxic positivity, something that means you won't take care of yourself the way you need to. And in the next slide, this is where we really want to pay attention to the whole idea of taking care of ourselves, because many times as caregivers, and I know this because nurses are the worst for this, we don't take time for ourselves, but we give everything to everybody else. And if you notice, that pole's wobbling and it's going more for time for others, but she's trying to balance her life. And that's really what we need to do, is to balance ourselves and to find a way to take care of ourselves. Now, that's not always easy. So let's look at the next slide. I'm going to give a big pitch about respite. Any way, shape, or form you can get some rest, because it's so important. If you are an elderly caregiver, you have a 63% chance, raised rate of dying. Now, that's not to scare you, but that's to say Please get rid of some of those barriers to taking care of yourself, that guilt about, oh no, I shouldn't put myself first. If you want to really be around for the long term, to really take care of your loved one, you've got to take care of yourself first. You've heard me say that a couple of times, and you'll probably hear me say it a few more times. The whole idea of that adage that we know now about putting the oxygen mask on first when you're in a plane and then putting it on the child or whoever else is, that is the image to keep for this. So why don't we take care of ourselves? Well, again, I mentioned the guilt, but it's also about feeling maybe not worthy, or maybe you feel too worthy, like nobody can take care of my husband or my wife or my sister or whoever as well as I can. Or maybe you've had a long history of never asking for help. You're an independent person and you feel strong and capable, but everybody has their limits. So one reason why this dying rate is so high in caregivers is that people don't eat. They don't eat right. They don't exercise at all. They don't go to the doctor's appointments themselves. All kinds of things about not taking care of themselves. So it's important to set goals for yourself with baby steps. Like, I will at least step outside for 5 minutes and get sun on my face, unless it's July in Tucson. But or I will take a little walk just around the house, or I'll turn the radio on. All those things from the plus and minuses that we mentioned before with the gains and drains, and from your joy journal. Set some goals with baby steps. And eating right, finding ways to at least get a piece of fruit a day. All right, so now also finding ways to experiment, asking yourself, what can I do differently that is really going to help me feel better right now? The whole question of what can I do right now that would help me be less stressed or to feel better, those kinds of things. So trying out, maybe hiring someone to come in and help for half a day. Maybe you have a friend that had a caregiver and she was wonderful and she could come in. Or actually thinking, what about my daughter who keeps saying, let me help, mom, let me help, mom. Maybe you would let her come in for a half an hour and you could go out and go to the library, get a cup of coffee, or sit in the other room and chew your nails thinking, oh, I don't know how to handle this. Start trying different things. Have a list of what you need to have help with. Know that sometimes you've probably offered to help somebody right at a funeral, or they've had another crisis and you say, just call me, anything, I'll do anything. And they look at you and say, yeah, yeah. And you think, they're never going to call me. But that's probably because they don't know what they really need to have help for. So that's where you make your list. It'd be great to have a meal once a week, or it'd be great if they could take my husband to rehab once a week. Those kinds of things can make a big difference to your life. And ask people who have different kinds of skills. Maybe there's people that love to drive and are good drivers. Those are the ones to ask for the transportation. Or maybe you have a friend that loves to make pies, and wouldn't it be nice to have a homemade pie once in a while? So make the request, be brave, see what it's like, and prepare that some people may say no. They may be in their own crisis at the time. Right, so now we're getting towards the end of my talk here, and we're going to the next slide. Just to review quickly, relax, remember your scale of 1 to 10, write down where you are experiencing physical or emotional stress and what those feel like for you at a 5. Exercise, of course, physical activity. Go out and play with your grandkids, or turn on the radio and jiggle a little bit. All of those kinds of things can be counted as exercise, even doing the vacuuming. Laughter, of course, humor is the best medicine. Make a joy journal so that you have a place to go when you need something to enjoy yourself, and find a way to have humor be a real help for you at the time, and to get a new perspective. Imagination, remember you can always visualize or do affirmations that are helpful. It's an important part of your brain that needs to expand and look at ways that you can take care of yourself creatively. Energize, another chart you can make is the plus or minuses, the things that are big or little that are draining you, and the things that are little that could reboot your energy. Sometimes you might want to take a whole vacation, but that may not be possible. So take mini vacations. Fake it till you make it. Definitely finding ways for respite. That's an important part of taking care of yourself. It may just be 5 minutes, or it might be taking a whole week off. I didn't mention I was a hospice nurse and a home care nurse, and the hospices, if you have unfortunately, you have a terminally ill person you're taking care of, they can give you respite care. So that's something to think about. All right, we're getting down now to the end, and there's going to be time for questions, but I want you to know, if you keep doing what you're already doing, you'll keep getting what you've already got. Right. Maya will be changing this slide to the last slide with the number for Catalina In-Home Services. And this is the resources that I want you to be able to have access to. She will also be giving you this handout if you want it, so that you can look up these sites. The Resiliency YouTube is only 15 minutes, but it's fabulous. And the rest of the sites are very, very good as well for you caregivers. If you decide in respite care that you're going to get someone to help you, I have to put in a plug for Catalina, because I've been associated with them for over 40 years, and they are an amazing, amazing caregiver. You can get some wonderful ideas from them. And if Maya does send you this PowerPoint, there's more information about them. Hello,
Thank you
Maya.
so much. Thank you, Liz. You provided some great information, and I think some real food for thought as well for folks. I had a question come in asking about the brain linking that you spoke about. Does that always have to be something that you're holding that's tangible, or can you maybe use a memory in time that would work the same as, something else that you can't touch or hold? Does it need to be something tangible?
Oh, for sure. No, it's just that some people do better with it being more concrete, if you know what I mean. It's like, oh, I'm so stressed. Oh, yes, I can just hold this. But yeah, having a memory is wonderful. Just, remembering what it's like to hug somebody. Yes, that any way you can use your brain to visualize, affirm, and create positive feelings for yourself is wonderful.
Excellent. And I love that you touched on caregivers and what they can ask for, or I know, and I have been in the situation myself. Sometimes you don't know what to ask for, and so that can be a real challenge for folks. And I think sometimes you feel that maybe you are burdening somebody else, even though they're asking what they can do for you to
Right.
help. So I do think that that's really important. And maybe for somebody who is trying to help, just sometimes if you bring over, just bring over a meal or something that might be, something that just they
Exactly.
realize. Or I had somebody clean my home one time, and that was just amazing.
Oh my
So
gosh,
it
yes.
is, yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think people
Go
just
put
don't
gas in
know
the car.
necessarily.
Whatever.
So yeah, so it does
Right,
make it
right. And
challenging.
what another barrier is feeling right. And sometimes people feel guilty about asking, like we were mentioning. And the thing to remember is all the times that you've wanted to help somebody and they haven't let you help them. And you think, I just wish they'd let me, come over and sit with them for a while, or I wish they'd tell me what they need, or whatever. And so think about how much you want to help, and how great you felt when they actually told you, yes, please come over, or, oh, I'm embarrassed to say it, but could you clean that? Could you clean? Could you do this? Could you do that? And how wonderful you felt that you were able to help. Remember, it's a part of a gift to allow people to help you. It's a part of this whole circle of the giving.
Thank you. You're cutting out on us just a little bit there, Liz, but
Oh, sorry.
I agree.
Okay.
It is
Did you get the
definitely,
gist of it at least?
absolutely, yes, and I do agree that
Good.
you know we want to do the same thing as far as helping, and so being able to come up with some ideas is always a wonderful thing. I did want to share with everyone, we had Dr. Sethi here earlier this month, and Dr. Sethi and I did some laughter yoga together. So if you need some um, guidance on doing some of those exercises. We even did a Zoom laughter exercise, which was fun. So there are lots of things out there for folks to find, and we do have all of those recordings that people can go back and watch. Yes,
Right.
Liz.
I want to let people know too that there is a laughter yoga group here in Tucson, and they meet every Tuesday online. So that's something that they can do regularly or just tune in whenever you want to. I used to go to their classes when they were live, and sometimes I basically dragged myself there, but I always left glad I went.
Excellent. That's a great resource. I think we'll be ready to wrap up. I do want to thank you for being here. I also want to let everyone know that continuing on with our mental and emotional health, we do have the Mood Gut Connection coming up next week on Wednesday, April 28th at 10 a.m. And we have a Zoom presentation. So if you're interested in that, you will need to also register. But that's the tools for achieving optimal emotional health. So those two will be wrapping up this month as far as the mental and emotional health. We also have Dr. Hills coming tomorrow to talk to us about surgical and non-surgical hips. So if you are interested in any of these classes, please feel free to give us a call in the office. The number is 520-324-1960. And we'll be sending out a copy of Liz's presentation with a lot of great resources that she's provided to you if you have registered for this class, and we'll reshare the link for you as well. So thank you so much for being here, Liz. This was wonderful. And I hope we were able to give people some new perspectives on different things that they may be able to use to reduce their stress. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, and good luck to everybody. Take care.